Workers of Reddit, when have you said frick this, I quit? Years ago I worked in a restaurant and it was Christmas time. This place was supposed to function with 4 waitresses, a busboy, dishwasher, manager and 2 cooks. Only the manager and I showed up. He did the cooking. I took orders, served, bussed tables, washed dishes and so on. During this I accidentally dropped 2 bread plates and they broke. Manager says to me, I'll have to take those out of your pay. I told him that was funny, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. I turned around and grabbed a stack of dinner plates, threw them on the floor and said take those out of my pay too and walked out to leave him with the whole mess. I was 5 minutes late and was chewed out because of this, but they were so keen to forget that I filled in for them the previous day because someone quit on the spot. I too quit on the spot. I quit after working for 4 hours at a sushi restaurant. I asked where the bathroom was and I was told we don't really get bathroom breaks. I left right then and never came back. It was pretty sad. The manager said he understood and wasn't mad at all. Should have just peed on the floor and then quit to really prove your point. I had worked at a university for 23 years. There were over 7,700 staff and I think I had met half of them by then. Working as a senior field IT tech was awesome for the first 20 years. They were very flexible and I had lots of side gigs. In the end the bean counters came in and made things more efficient by outsourcing many tasks. Usually they were the fun things. The last year was very repetitive and mundane. Lots of problems that we couldn't fix because they were someone else's problem. One day I came in and attempted to resolve 7 different problems, and I was shut down on each because they each had their own team of people whose responsibility it was. I said frick this, what do you need me for? Went straight to HR to quit. Belinda, the HR manager, was not your typical cliched type. I'd fixed her PC before and knew her. She said, don't quit today, take the weekend, wait until Monday, and see how you feel then. I took her advice, temporarily retracting my signed resignation, and went home. On Monday the largest round of redundancies were announced in the university's long history. Because of the enterprise bargaining agreement, the payouts were incredible. My accountant, when he saw how much was being offered, suggested they had made a mistake and called on my behalf to check if it was correct. It was effectively 2 years' salary after tax. I would have missed out if Belinda had accepted my resignation. I got hired at Kmart to work in sporting goods. Was told to wear the traditional black pants and red polo. Day 1. Sorry, we can't train you for sporting goods today. We need you to help unload trucks. It's summer in SC. It's 100 degrees and 80% humidity. I'm wearing black pants and a thick polo. No change of clothes. End of day. Sorry about today. We'll start training you tomorrow. Come to work in uniform again. Day 2. Same thing. Day 3. Same thing. Day 4. Same thing. Day 5. Same thing. Day 6. Same thing. Day 7. I came in on my day off to quit. If I wasn't dumb and 17 I probably would have just wised up and brought a change of clothes. I didn't mind unloading the truck, although the sweat-drenched clothes weren't ideal. The real reason I quit was the obvious lack of planning and management. Worked at a mall retail store in college for a couple years. When I was just a lowly peasant the manager was great to work for. Once I became a key holder is when things changed. I learned very quickly why the other key holders didn't last. The manager would make rash decisions that would then be blamed on everyone but her. Last straw was when the evening shift didn't change out some signage and I get in the next morning having no idea there was new signage to be put out. She came in and berated me about the signage not being updated. I walked in the back, dropped my keys off, told her I quit and went to walk out. She grabbed me and told me I need to give a written notice and fax it to corporate, to whom it may concern. I Mark Oxbig terminate my employment effective immediately due to manager's inability to properly treat staff. Faxed it and walked out. She read it after I had already sent it and chased me out, berating me more, claiming I would never get another retail job in this mall. Blah blah blah. 3 weeks later I started at another store in that mall and always made it a point to smile and wave at her when I saw her. When I was 14, I wanted a summer job with my best friend. We went to the fast food shop at the beachside. It was quite popular since it was the only fast food around. We get there on a Friday afternoon and we meet the owner. 50-something man with a big belly from probably the fast food he serves. Tells us we can get there the next morning and people would show us around. We get there at 9 AM like he told us and there was no one. First employees arrive at 10:30 to open. They have no idea we were supposed to work. They tried to help us the most they could but they were cashier with no training for the food stuff. Both their cooks left that week and the owner was doing all the work. We finish our first day without any trouble. Slow day overall. Sunday arrive and we are not prepared for the sheer number of customers. We still have about no idea how to cook the food and how the equipment worked. Owner arrived with a bunch of his friends. We were swamped with people but he shoved them around a bit and asked us to do 6 hot dogs, 6 fries and 6 Diet Cokes and fast. We knew it was for him so we told people to wait and we finished their order. Not 30 seconds after the owner comes back behind the counter and begin to tell us we are crap at our job and that the fries were not cooked enough and that we messed the condiments on the hot dogs. Mind you, there were a lot of customers waiting for their food at that point and they were all looking at us getting yelled at by the owner. I looked at my friend. He looked at me and we both knew what to do. We took our aprons off and told him to frick off. We left him with all the orders right there and then. Never went back there. They closed down about 2 years after. Job got a VIP contract to vaccinate a bunch of elite clients. They rushed. They brought on some extra nurses, barely vetted them and began. Virtually no breaks. And piles of paperwork. They didn't finish ordering and setting up the computers and there was only one computer to chart on like 100 patients a day. Not all the nurses got their clearance for the computer yet either. Scariest part was I had to stop someone from reusing a needle that she didn't realize she used on a previous patient. She told me she only primed it, pushed the air out, but I told her without alarming the patient that it was not suitable. I told her to go away and cleaned up her area, vaccinated the patient and never went back. I was already sick of them only thinking about the bottom line. I worked as a server at a bar during college. The head bartender each day was in charge of assigning tables to the server. There was one bartender who really didn't like me and every time she worked, she would give me the worst tables so that I wouldn't make as much in tips. She also did the scheduling. She started only scheduling me for slow times early in the day, like during lunch when we would have 50% off lunch specials. It sucked, but fair enough. She does the scheduling and I needed the money. Well, it just got worse and worse until I was barely making minimum wage even though I was making close to $20 an hour when I started. One day, during a slow lunch, I was working with a different bartender. When the bartender's shift ended, the other bartender who did the scheduling came in to take over. I was serving a large table of probably 15 people. Probably the best table I had had in a week or so. She saw this and decided to reassign tables and work as a server as well as bartender. She of course took my table and said it was now hers, even though I had been serving them for about an hour and they were almost done with their meal. This wasn't the first time, but it was the last straw for me. I went up to the table, explained the situation, and instead of just transferring the table, I cashed them out, which they were happy to do. So I collected the cash tip, told the bartender frick you, I quit, and walked out with the tip from the table and never talked to anyone at that bar again. I found a better job the next day. I was working at a company for only a few months when things started to get bad. I had direct deposit set up and I was away on vacation when payday came around. My paycheck didn't drop in my bank account. Okay, interesting. I texted a coworker and the boss said that the new assistant forget to approve it. This happened for the next 3 pay periods. I had to go to my boss every payday to try and get her to cut my check. Some days she would leave early and tell us she totally forgot. That following Monday, she comes in and is showing off a new car she bought over the weekend. Right there I told her I will not be coming back into work and I would like my final pay. I didn't say frick this, I quit, but I sure as heck should have. No way was I even going to give her the decency of 2 weeks notice, either. Who the heck buys a new car when you're struggling to pay your employees? Still gets me mad. My husband was working for a company like that. Boss shows up with a brand new truck and proceeds to tell everyone he doesn't know if he can make payroll the following Friday. I asked months in advance for time off during a Friday. I was approved. The fateful Friday came around and everybody I worked with, 4 of us, were also approved for time off. We all had the same events to attend. The manager calls me the night before and tells me that I need to come in. I told him I had already made the plans and that I was approved months ago with emails to show for it. He responded by telling me if I didn't show I'd be fired. I just didn't go. Frick you, Jason. Same thing basically happened to me. Was told I'd get time off the weekend before 4th of July. Manager makes a last minute schedule change the day of and tells me it's mandatory to come in. After arguing about how I'd told them 2 months ahead of time, I told her I wouldn't come in ever again, and to bite me then I hung up the phone. HR dude calls on Friday at 6 p.m. Hey, I'm really sorry. The insurance company won't cover you until you're an employee for 60 days. Me. That's a shame. Since you promised that you'd cover me and children right away, that you'd arrange the 60 days going to not apply to me, and I told you that was a condition for me accepting this job. Also, my son's surgery is literally on Monday, in 2 days, and he was shocked that I quit the next week. Just totally livid that I gave a week's notice. You know this means you'll never work here again, yeah, or hey, that's the freaking point. For the second year in a row the big meeting with the CEO went, and we hit 150% of our targets this year. No pay raises for anyone. I was hired for a college to run their office where students got hands-on work in the field. When I discovered that they were ripping off students' hours, I started providing students copies of their hours and telling them to keep a notebook with the copies for their records. See, the students were on a contract that if they didn't graduate by the date estimated for completion, students were required to pay $200 every additional week it took to complete among suspensions, which in turn went against contract graduation date. Full stop. They also asked me to falsify a report of students' absences to suspend them even though I had documented proof the student was in class. I decided to leave that job, but not before telling students to report them to the state board and providing statements for the lawyer who the students gathered to represent their case. I got hired in a custom fabrication shop as one of their 2 welders. Boss promises to have me learn a bit of everything: machining, water jet, design, but barely even had me do any welding. On top of being a massive C to everyone, talked crap about us to customers while we were working right next to him. Got hired at a different company Thursday evening, other welder quit Friday morning, I quit Friday at lunch. Felt real good leaving them up crap creek. I used to work as some kind of aid worker rescuer in events with large gathering of people, concerts, festivals, etc. The boss owner always put her head down for the clients and allowed them to exploit us. One of the regular clients was the event manager of a popular stadium. They would ask us to be in the stadium 3 hours prior the event to clean, yup, and stay afterwards to clean, yup. The manager wasn't paying more money for it, but the boss didn't want to lose the client, so we just have to do it. So, there would be events with that took 16 hours to complete, with a menial pay, no food or beverage, and with the client expecting us to do more work for free. Note, I never did that, and always encouraged my partners to leave. It wasn't our job to clean. But the moment that made me say frick this crap was when the boss called me saying that the client emailed her with a complaint about me. I thought it would be about me and my team always leaving after the job was done and not staying for cleaning. But no, they told me that they always see you chatting with your partner, and with a smile. They don't want the attendants to see their workers distracted and all laughing. They want to show that only professionals work with them. So they are asking that you turn down a notch your positive attitude and keep a poker face all the time. I've worked in retail part-time since I was 16. In my first job they started introducing a punishment system for when team members didn't make their target. Thankfully it never happened to me, but one day a manager posted on our staff Facebook page a video of them throwing a bucket of water over an employee who didn't make his target, purely for everyone else to laugh at. This didn't happen with any of the other punishments. He had worked there 10 years. He was a stockroom member, so wouldn't even be on the shop floor to make the targets set for him, as all targets for every member were sales based, even if you weren't a sales member, because if it was busy there was a chance you would have to go on the shop floor and help. He had taken off his shoes and placed them to the side so they didn't get wet. He did this because he had to get 2 buses to run from work every day. That was my official frick this moment and quit after that. I used to work nights as a cashier at a deli convenience store. Pretty chill job. The manager who worked during the day quit, so my boss asked me to switch and handle manager's responsibilities. I said sure, with a pay raise. He assured me it would only be for a week. So I said fine, I'll do you the favor. So now, I would work 6 AM to 4 PM during the week and 6 AM to 11:30 PM during the weekends. The new times also involved a lot more work. I would literally be running the entire store myself, including orders, deliveries, inventory, a bunch of other things that I was not getting paid to do. Should also note that my boss didn't even know how to work the register, let alone anything else that needed to be done. Well, that week turned into a month. I went back into his office, which was a supply closet with a computer in it, to discuss a pay raise, and he asked to take me out to dinner to discuss it. I said no. Told him he had another week to find someone. Next week goes by and it's a Friday. I go up to him and ask him for either a raise or some sort of bonus for all that I've done. He asks about dinner again and I say no. He then says no to the raise or bonus. So I told him I quit. He can show up tomorrow and Sunday 6 AM to 11:30 PM because I won't be there. I'm telling this to the man who doesn't know how to open the register. I walk away and go back to the register. He comes up to me 10 minutes later, opens his wallet, and pulls out a $100 bill and gives it to me as my bonus. I take it, put it in my purse and say thank you. I'm still quitting though. The look on his face was amazing. An hour later, I pay myself for the week and left. I was the IT department for a small company. A few times I would go to the owners' places and work on their computers there, set up VPNs back to the office, etc. Didn't take long for that to morph into come over tonight. My teenage daughter has an essay due and the printer isn't working and little Johnny got his computer loaded with viruses again. Come fix it. I didn't get paid extra for the house calls. When I finally said frick it, I quit, they wouldn't accept my resignation, as though they had a choice, so I wrote a bridge burning letter detailing why I was leaving. House calls was the only point in the letter that they took issue with. Company promised a retreat in Banff because we hit our sales targets. 2 weeks before the trip, they say it's been cancelled, with no plans to pay us out for the pooled bonus that would have went towards that trip. On the weekend of the trip, a manager posts a photo of her and other managers in Banff. But oh no, it wasn't work related. They said it was for a manager's birthday, even though one of the managers that went absolutely hates the one who was allegedly celebrating the birthday. Quit shortly after. Ooh boy, strap in. I used to work at IHOP as a server. Our manager was wildly incompetent. She would leave with the manager card, which was the only way to correct an order, refund something, etc. She was spiteful and stupid, a deadly combination. So I was poor, and had a raggedy pair of the non-slip shoes you're supposed to wear in food service. I also had a pair of Doc Marten work shoes that were slip oil electric proof. Same color and all. She made a big stink about me not wearing the correct shoes. I explained they were on their last leg, and that even though the docs were technically not regulation, they fit the criteria. They even said it on the sole. So she threatens to fire me over these freaking shoes and I cave and wear the crappy shoes to work. Saturday night. Packed to the gills. Not a seat in the house. Halfway into my nightmare understaffed shift, as I'm carrying an appetizer sampler and a tray of drinks to a table, the sole rips from the upper and I trip and spill the whole freaking sampler on the table. Ranch, honey mustard, marinara, 4 Dr. Peppers, all over me and a couple, face and all. I freak out and apologize. Explain I'll comp the food and then go to find the manager. Guess who went home? With that almighty card you need to void checks or discount them. I also had about 5 other tables suffering who saw all this happen. I call her. She's at home. Lives 15 minutes away. I told her not to bother, asked her how she could be so freaking stupid to go home with the card for the 10,000th time, screamed about the dang shoes etc, and told her to go frick herself. Took my tips out of the cash I had, told all my customers their meals were on the house, and stripped down to my underwear right there in the parking lot. Walked to my car and changed my clothes. Never looked back. When I was 17, my boss asked if I had any extra Vicodin left over from my on-site work injury, and if he could have it. The owners of that Subway were fed up on opiates. I left not long after. I got skipped on a guaranteed bonus. Company performance, not mine. Even though I fell well within the requirements. It wasn't a ton of money, but I felt slighted. They felt like they owned me. Little did they know my clients had been scouting me as an employee. I was a contractor, so I already had jobs ready for me at better pay. I quit and took the job with my client, effectively killing the contract renewal with my old company. My boss pleaded with me to stay and offered even a higher salary. I told me if I was worth more than the bonus before I quit. How come you didn't offer it to me then? I'm quitting on principle, not for the money. This job offer existed before your slight. They still get excited when I call for a referral thinking I'm coming back. Nope. Sorry. Was a cell phone tower climber. Winds were pretty high, right on the edge of where we should have called the day off. Foreman was a drunk whose wife thought he was sober. He would close the bar down every night we were on the road, as did most of the climbers. A few hours and the winds keep getting gustier. Foreman wants to finish the job. By the end I remember just trying to get the cable stable on the tower, leaning off as far as I could to bring it back in and then pinning it to the steel while my co-worker attached it to the tower. Mind you, this is heavy cable, a bit more than £1 per foot up a 300-foot tower. Those things get moving. If it falls and gets damaged, it is expensive, and if it hits someone, they're going to the air. I kept my calm through the day, but it wasn't the first day of overlooking as many safety precautions as possible. People free climbing, dropping tools from height, etc. Obnoxiously, the pay wasn't even good. The cell phone companies contract out to construction management firms who contract to smaller fly-by-night crews. There is no money at the bottom of that crappy ladder. After being refused for the 4th time after being promised a raise because of being assigned parts of the jobs of 5 higher paid people who had been let go, I said F this, I retire. But first I took off 2 months to have an elective surgery under their health insurance. I was first promised the raises of Thanksgiving, then the 1st of December, then Christmas, and finally the end of January to give management enough time to do the paperwork. The 1st of February they told me that, unfortunately, I would not be getting the raise. I once worked as an air quality monitor. We would primarily get involved with sewage contractors. One day, we're on a job and there's these huge cylindrical digestion tanks with tons and tons of human crap inside of them. They were each around 30 feet tall. One of the contractors had to perform work on the roof of one of these tanks. I was to be harnessed and standing beside the guy monitoring for any vox. There were concerns that the roof would collapse, and even though I was harnessed, I would literally fall into a huge pile of bubbling crap. I said frick this, I quit. I once spent 6 hours fixing an error in my code that stemmed from me misplacing a space. That was when I realized that 1, I hated this job, and 2, I am seriously not cut out for this if I could waste 6 hours on this kind of error on my part. I quit a week later after I got another offer. I worked in an outgoing call center for 1 day and 1 hour. It was ringing up small business owners trying to get them to do a survey. I spent several hours being told, justified, to frick off. If you weren't dialing a new number as soon as you'd ended a call, the management were on your back. In our opening script, we told them the survey was 10-15 minutes. The one time I got someone to do it, he was asking how long was left at about 20-25 minutes. It was freaking miserable. The second day, I got in, spent an hour being told to frick off, justified, then just stood up and walked out. I'd rather eat 7p packets of noodles than do that crap. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.